Hello, I'm Sampstra Games and this video is sponsored by Slytherin, and today I'm going to show you some of the coolest mechanics of Terminator Dark Fate Defiance, a real-time strategy game. Now specifically we're going to go through units, environment, RPG elements and factions, and much more.
Now go!
Units. This game has a huge variety of different units and vehicles, and it also has these little platforms that you can actually attach as a trailer to your vehicle and then use as a form of artillery. Now, it's not just the variety of different units, they're actually quite customizable. So to each vehicle or platform, you can add these different modules that allow you to add like extra armor or different types of weapon and etc. And this is similar for units. So for regular units, you can buy them a different type of weapons. And as you notice here, they can actually have multiple types of weapons and they will automatically choose which one is the most effective to use. Like, look at this guy throwing a grenade every once in a while between his shots. I just love watching him in the window. There are also some aerial units both for you and the enemy. Now you can also upgrade your units and you can give them either like increase of a specific stat, or you can give them a special ability. What are special abilities? Well, these are unique abilities to different units and they range from something as simple as throwing a smoke grenade to
I can do this!
reprogramming an enemy unit.
Yes! I did it!
Now units also have a different mode, so basically you can tell them to go in defensive mode, attacking mode, firing mode, or just running mode. And some units can even crawl, so this will give them a better chance to avoid hits. Next up, let's talk about one of my favorite parts, and that's how damage is shown on units. Gone are the days where you have this boring HP bar that is just showing you damage. Oh, no. First of all, you can see the damage done, and if they do enough damage, you actually lose different kind of people, and you can see it over here. And if a unit has special abilities, it might actually lose some of them and not be able to use it. Now, if that's not cool enough, let me show you the coolest thing about all this, and that's how it works on vehicles. Here you can see how much damage different parts of the vehicle have, and the vehicle has specific modules you can see on the bottom, and you can see how damaged they are. So this vehicle, for example, has a damaged movement system. Means it's moving slower than a regular vehicle and it cannot fire. It is a broken weapon. Now what you can do, you can send out your people to fix the vehicle, but it's really important that you have enough spare parts. So they're going to be utilizing the spare parts. Obviously the more damage to the vehicle, the more spare parts you're going to be using. I think this adds a really nice complexity to the game because it's not just binary, like your vehicle is broken or not. No, it might move slower or attack worse. Environment. Now, there's a really interesting relationship between environment and units. Instead of having a typical cover indicator like you have this or that percentage of cover, the game takes into account everything when it's calculating the shot. Like whether you are inside a building or a vehicle, what kind of objects are between you and the enemy, like are you behind a concrete wall or a wooden fence? It also takes into account camouflage. You can see camouflage here on the bottom, and the camouflage is affected by things like movement, firing a weapon, whether you're lying in grass or in low range. Landscape is also important because if you are behind a bump or a fold in the landscape, it can save you from a direct hit. And the higher you are, the more convenient it is for you to shoot because the less disturbed by these landscape and objects. So this is a really interesting feature on this game that is kind of invisible, but also ever present. Kind of like the enemy. Now units can hide inside a building and you can pick a specific area that you want them to focus on and then they will shoot in that direction. Now your buildings of course can blow up and get destroyed, so make sure you don't leave your units in there. Now that's not all about the environment because, you know, maybe this game isn't about humanity versus Legion AI, but instead about vehicle versus wall. Look at that! No longer do you have to drive around a wall, carefully trying to maneuver your vehicle. Oh no! Let's break that wall. Let's go. Look at that. Love it. Now what I'm trying to get at here is that the game has destructible walls, fences, and even some objects, not just the buildings. The role-playing elements and factions. So this game has quite a lot of role-playing elements because there's a lot of different NPCs and factions that you can speak to, and they obviously give you missions and you can get some of the rewards you would expect, like maybe new types of vehicles or units or some kind of resources or etc. But you can also get some really interesting things, like for example in a mission you can get warning where the enemy is, which I think is really, really cool. And you can both befriend or turn these factions and NPCs into an enemy.
I warn you. Don't you know who I am?
And of course some of these NPCs might join your army. This means that you're going to have a lot of different options in different missions. And this leads me to my next point, which is variety in missions. Now there's a huge variety of missions in this game. So there's obviously the optionality already mentioned, where you can choose like which NPC or faction to help, but there's also different mission types. So you can have a mission where you have to defend the map through waves and waves of enemies. You can have attacking missions where you want to clear everybody. You can have escorting missions where you have to escort civilians or some kind of a vehicle from one place to another. You can have a mission like find supplies, and also some missions are very, let's say, alive, where you start maybe like find some resources, then that turns into a defending mission, then it turns into clear the entire area mission. So it can be really interesting that it's not just fixed in stone. You're not gonna, at the start of a map, you're not really gonna know where you're gonna end up, because it's going to change, and also because it depends on your choices. So I really like that. I think that's really interesting, and it adds to that sort of role-playing part of the game. Now speaking of missions, how do you pick them? Well, that's what the global map is for. So here on the global map, the game has three main resources: goodwill, manpower, and supplies. And the supply and manpower is really interesting because you have to do this balancing act where obviously the more manpower the better, but if you have too many men you might not be able to feed them, and then it's not the Legion who will kill you, it's hunger. Now here on the global map is also where you can resupply units, trade with some factions that you befriended or outposts, or repair your units. Now the game can be played in 3 different modes: campaign, multiplayer, or skirmish. Now another really cool thing is that you can actually pick up weapons that got left over from destroyed units on the ground. If the game is a little too fast for you, you can always use active pause to stop and think. Now speaking of stopping, I know you want to go play the game now instead of watching this video, so bye bye!